All right, dudes and deucessies, how y'all doing today? It's Monday. I'm back to doing a live, and you got to bear with me a little bit because we are going to be trying to do something here. I'm waiting for my, and then we're going to have a little chat today about something she wanted to kind of talk about, which is to find the credit somewhere for those of us who do housework that are men. You know, we all kind of get ignored. The Brother Love show on YT, dude. Brother Love as in the old wrestler? I just showed my age. Brother Love. Yeah, so anyway, we're going to be talking about, men doing housework because there's this belief out there that we don't, which is freaking hilarious. I've done a couple videos on it myself. Hey, Squirrely! All right, let me see if I can figure out how to invite you on here. Hold on. Yep. Now I did something bad. I don't know what I did. Hold on. And invite. Bear with me, kids. I'm screwed. I just screwed up the whole computer. I love it. Let's go back here. There it is. Accept.
Wait, damn it, stop. Okay, so
Hey, you're on, aren't you?
it's audio only. I forgot to hit the little, let
Hit
me
the little
log
button
off
there,
and then do it
girlfriend.
again.
So let me go back here to my general there because I had to jump off to come back on. So as you notice, Lindsay, who is Squirrely Girl 1988, is joining me to have this. Thank you, Brother Love Show. I'm fascinated. You're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Do you do a podcast or anything? I'm trying to remember who the wrestler was that went by Brother Love. He was something else. I haven't watched wrestling in, well, let's see, when my sons were in their teens, so it would have been the late 90s, early 2000s. They were so into wrestling, and we had so much fun with it. Just, me taking them to wrestling shows. I'm sidetracking here, but
Hey,
are
hey
you back,
Dan,
Glenn?
can you kick me off and then do it again? Because it's
Oh, hold on. Let me kick you. I got to figure out how to do this. Guys, bear with us. We're just trying to get Lindsay on with me. Trying to send you another invite. There we go. Invite. Bear with us, guys. Yeah, he was a WWE guy. Who was he though? He went by with something else, Brother Love. Who was it? Wasn't Brutus the Barber Beefcake, was it? I'm trying to remember who that was. Now we're getting totally sidetracked here.
all right. It won't let me join with video. Apparently, that I haven't earned that privilege back from the last time I was banned.
Oh, well, that's all right. We can still chit chat. They can look at my beautiful face while we're talking. I love it. So anyway, I'm just chit chatting with one of the guys in the comments about wrestling of all things, But so let me get back to the real topic at hand. And this Lindsay came up with this one kind of. We were chit chatting, and she said, "Let's talk about housework." Did I do that right?
Yeah, so I've done a couple videos on this. I even sat there and did freaking math early in the morning because some guy didn't like. He got really hung up on the numbers, and he was like, "Well, fractions don't work because it's two different things." I go, "I know. I'm doing just a general thing." He's like, "But it doesn't work," and I'm like, "Fine." It's just like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm doing freaking math, and I'm like, I hope you appreciate this because math and squirrely does not no mixy. I was
What
like,
were you doing math about, though?
so I often hear well, it takes so if two people work in the household. So
Hmm.
the takes 60 hours of paid labor to run the household. The dad or the husband works 40 of those 60 and the wife works 20 of those 60. So he works
Oh,
2/3 of the paid labor, she works 1/3 of the paid labor. So
the math's already getting me messed up. All right, go on.
so then okay, well since he works 2/3 of the paid labor, he only works 1/3 of the domestic unpaid labor and she works the 2/3. So it's flip-flopped. So that
Okay.
it's all equal. You're getting 3/3, 99%, 100% of your portion of the housework. And I have a video on this, I can tag you in it so that you can or
Yeah,
download
please,
it and you can share or
please
duet
do.
it
I'd
or
be
something.
curious
But
to see it. Yeah.
but when you add everything up, that still has the husband working like 46.33 hours total and the wife working only 38. And when you break it down like that, the women are like, well, but I'm doing more housework. Yes, but he's doing more paid labor. And for some reason, they cannot see it.
Oh, they
Even if
can
you write it,
see it. They just don't want to believe it. That's what it is.
it comes into the out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
And unless it's like literally hitting them in the face, they refuse to. They're like, well, he doesn't do anything around the house. I'm like, are you sure about that? Are you sure?
Well, I mean,
Nothing.
I've talked about it in videos before. No matter what a guy does, he's never given credit for it, right? So you could do 15 loads of laundry, say, but the one time you don't do it for whatever reason, that's the one they're going to focus on. The other 15, they didn't count. Just that one time, for whatever reason you didn't do it, that's the one they're going to harp on. And that's the one they'll tell all their friends, he doesn't help out around the house with. I've seen that. I've experienced it.
Well, the thing that baffles me is that these women act like they're in the, and I've said it before, they act like they're in the fucking trenches of Normandy. Oh my God, I work 24/7 and it's just, they never turn off. And it's like, bitch, I do your job. I am a traditional stay at home housewife who was
Uh-oh,
taught how to
you used
keep
the trad
house.
word. I heard that's the new buzzword, trad wives.
Yeah, that I don't do that sort of
Where did
whatever.
that one come from? I was like,
I'm a traditional homemaker. And I was like, I do your job. Well, I do the job you claim to do. And you might be on call 24/7, but you are not working 24/7.
no, you're not.
And if you
So,
are, then you need to reassess your time management skills because unless your house is a mansion, in which case you can hire a maid, it doesn't take you 8, 9, 10 hours of solid work to keep house. And if it does, you're doing it wrong.
yeah. Hey, Yolan Ready, thanks for the rose. I've talked about when I was a stay-at-home for about a year, give or take, a couple months. I forget which way it was. It's a long time ago. It was the best job I ever had. I'll state that up front. It was also the easiest job I ever had in my life. Um, Kind of along the lines of what you're talking about. So at the time, I had 6 kids at home. The youngest was 5, the oldest was 15. So they were all going to school. I would get up at 6 in the morning. I would get the kids all ready. They had different bus times they had to get on and all that. Get them breakfast, feed them, make their lunches, get them out the door. So they were all out the door by roughly 8 o'clock, 10 of 8, whatever the last bus was. And then I would do whatever house cleaning I needed to do. And generally, I was done by 9 or 10 in the morning. I had the rest of the day to myself to do whatever I wanted. The kids got home from school, again, varying times, but generally starting around 3 p.m., between 3 and 4, most of them were home. Sometimes my son had sports and all that. But I would have a snack ready for them and make dinner and all that. But basically, from let's say 10 to 3, I had 5 hours free to do whatever I want. So, I went back to school, did online schoolwork, all this stuff. I had a ball. It was the easiest job in the world. And like you said, if you can't have all the housework done by, say, 10, and the house was immaculate. It always just cracks me up when they say, "Oh, I spend hours a day doing cleaning." What the hell are you doing?
And yeah, and the thing that baffles me is that your job as a parent is to run out of jobs. So the minute your child is old enough to put up their own match their own frickin' socks, put up their own laundry.
Yes.
Now, I can imagine if you have 6 kids and you're doing everything for them, but then you're also crippling them because they're going to hit 18 and they're going to magically become an adult overnight, and they're not going to know how to. That's how you get college kids. Or when I used to, work full time before I had kids, we would get, 18, 19-year-olds who've never done a load of laundry in their life because their mother did it for them. And I'm like, but that's not helpful. Like,
You're not
even though
you're not
my OC,
teaching them. No, you're not teaching them the
but
life skills they need.
your job as a parent is, like I said, to run out of jobs, to create a functioning adult who can function in society and be a good person. And if you're constantly doing, I mean, I might believe the 24/7 thing if you're doing everything for everyone, but most parents don't. And it's like, it is a job, and it does have value, but it's almost like a lot of these stay-at-home moms, they want to talk themselves up and give themselves more accolades, more value. And that they end up doing it in a way that almost makes it laughable because they're already doing a very valuable job. It is a valuable job, but you cannot equate it to digging ditches for 60, 70, 80 hours a week. You can't, it's not, you can't compare two uncomparable things. And so
Right.
someone says, well, my husband, like I have neighbors up the street, the dad works, he's a AC tech for commercial. So he installs and repairs commercial AC units. So he's, you know, driving all over the place up on top of, commercial buildings, servicing the giant AC units at, here in Texas, at, 105-degree weather for 16 hours a day. You can't compare that to someone who works part-time retail. You
Yeah.
can't. And
It's
then
night and day different. Yeah.
and it's the retail working spouse, because it's not always, sometimes the woman is harder work or brings home the bigger paycheck, but it's like, you want to compare working in an AC cushioned office job part-time to manual labor, and it baffles me.
Do you think some of it is for the stay-at-homes? Because I experienced this a little bit, but I see it all the time where the working parents, working mothers, just put the stay-at-homes down. I mean, I see it a lot on all the social medias,
Oh
and
God, yes.
I don't
So
get that whole why are they even doing that? But you think that's
um
some of the reason why the stay-at-homes are so boisterous? I guess I'll go with.
so we have two sets of stay-at-home moms. You have the ones who want the recognition of being a stay-at-home mom because motherhood is celebrated.
Hmm.
And then you want the people who just want to be taken care of, but they don't want the stigma of, I'm just being taken care of. So those are the ones who don't do the job, but then run around telling everyone and act like they do. They're the ones that talk it up big, because anyone who actually does the job isn't going to sit around going around telling everyone, I do this, I do this, I do this. It's routine for them. So a lot of it's like the people who go around saying, well, I'm this, or I'm a strong, independent woman. You're an adult, Karen. You're an adult. It's called being
Hmm.
an adult. And those are the ones who they do. It's almost like they're trying to convince other people. But the problem with stay-at-home moms a lot of the times are absolutely reviled by working women, and it comes back to our old friend feminism, because uh these women have been told and all their lives that they can have both, and they can, and this is what baffles me, they will go and submit themselves to a boss who's usually male. So a male boss for 8, 9, 10 hours a day, but God's forbid a woman submit and serve her husband. They'll submit and serve a boss for a paycheck. But if you say I submit and I serve my husband, I've been brainwashed and I've internalized my misogyny.
That's an interesting point you just made, because I hadn't really thought about it that way. I again, I've been in that position. I never looked at it. First of all, let me say this: stay-at-home parent. I don't care if you're mother, father. You know, pick a blue person from Avatar. I think that is the best job there is. I think it is the most important job there is, and I say that frequently. And the reason I think that is it's the best thing for children that at least one parent is home. And again, I'm not saying one is better than the other, male versus female. I think there's great ones on both sides. I think there's horrible ones on both sides. But to your point, with the argument between the working moms and the stay-at-homes, I hadn't really thought about the point you made where, going to work, you're basically doing someone else's bidding, I guess is the way I'll put it. And to think that reality, though, at least in my experience with stay-at-homes, is they're the ones that are in charge of the house. So they're the boss there. Maybe you disagree with me on that.
It's kind of interesting is I always get accused of having, well, of course, internalized my misogyny and being a doormat. Oh, and being a traitor to my gender, because I say I serve my household and I serve my husband.
I've seen that one before, yeah.
They always confuse serve with like servant or subservience, which it's not the same thing. It's a choice. No, just like at customer service, if you choose to be in customer service, you're choosing to serve people and you get rewarded for that. And yeah, it's the best. Mine's the best reward. I get to raise my kids. I get to influence, and kind of mold and shape the people that they're becoming. I get an endless supply of cuddles from both my animals and my children whenever I want. I mean, like, it's the best. It's the best job ever. But the working women, a lot of it, I think, is envy that
I was going to ask if it wasn't jealousy. I was going to ask that question.
They were sold this lie that you could have both a wonderful, fulfilling career, a competitive career, big paying career, and have the home life. And that's simply not true. It's one or the other. And they look at it with envy because they're like, well, you submit to your husband tells you what to do. I was like, sweetie, I'm Southern. My husband couldn't tell me what to do if his life depended. And not only that, but if you're going to work in a corporate job and you have to submit subservience to a boss. In my household, I don't submit the way they think that I do. I'm an equal partner, and technically I'm sort of the boss. It's, happy spouse, happy house.
Right.
But since I'm the one who's doing all the basic upkeep, when there's a question, my husband comes and asks me. And I picked a fight with a feminist the other day who was like, well, me picking a fight with a feminist?
No.
I would never. Where it's talking about how men never help around the house, and then when they do, say, hey, how can I help you? Or what can I, what needs to be done? What can I help you? And this woman went off on this rant about how you're a grown ass man and you can see what's going on. And you can obviously see what needs to be done. And I can't take the time to, add to my mental workload to sit there and, dictate to you until I'm not your mother. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, he's probably asking you because the last time he tried to do it on his own, he got yelled at for doing it wrong.
Boom. I was just going to say that. I was going to say the reason he's asking is because the last time he did whatever, you yelled at him for not folding the towels right, and I will be the first to
mean,
tell you
it's not
I
even,
cannot fold towels.
it's not even doing the task like in a wrong way. It's, I call it order of operations. If there's, so yes, my husband's a grown man and he knows how to do things. He's an engineer. So his order of operations for how his, ADHD hyperactive brain works, of how he's going to get, in the most expedient manner, boom, 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 get it done,
Hmm.
differs from my order of operations, how I would get it done. Not just because we have competing we have a conflicting OCD styles and autism, but also just our own personal abilities. What the wife might be good at, or what one spouse might be good at, and she can run through it in a certain order, and that's going to be faster for her, might not be the most expedient, fastest way for the other spouse to do it. So
Right.
even so, I've been at people's houses when they're working, or I've have friends that I've been around where I've seen this happen, and it's a list, and there's a list, like the list of things to do is on the refrigerator or written down somewhere. So it's not that he's doing, it's not like he's out washing the cars when, 'cause that's always something that they joke
Oh, none
about.
of that counts. No, we know that none of that. If
Well,
it's
yeah, like
outside the house, it doesn't count.
people are coming over to the house and there's these things that need to get done, and she's, in the kitchen running around like a chicken with her head cut off, and he's outside, cleaning the pool, something completely irrelevant. None of that. Like there's a list of things that
Hmm.
we sat down, talked about, this needs to get done. And a lot of times the husband will ask, well, what do you need me to do? Like, where are you in the list? Like, what have you already done so that I don't
Exactly.
redo it? Or what are you doing now and what would you like me to do so that we don't get in each other's ways? Like, so you're not trying to like have a conflict of what are, like, you're in each other's, way. And it's like there's perfectly legitimate reasons for him asking, what do you need help with? Or what would you like me to do? And just this petty schoolyard mean girl, little girl crap of, well, if you don't know, I'm not going to tell you type crap. Like
I've heard
that.
that one.
It's like, well, either you want help or you don't. He can't read your mind. He's not psychic, and neither are you, despite what you may think.
That's funny because I've heard that one. Hey, just looking through some of the comments real quick here. Pure Phoenix, you got a bunch of them. I love them. They don't want men to be stay-at-home parents. Yes, that is true. And I'll tell you, when I was one, I got shamed for it. Like, why don't you go out and get a job? It's because, well, I was still getting paid for the job I had. The company closed and they were paying me. But people would look at me like, well, you're some kind of deadbeat because you're making your wife do the work. Nobody will ever look at your kids as well as their own parent. Completely agree, Phoenix, with that one. Couple other ones. Brother Love Show. I like her. He likes you, Lindsay.
Yay!
I like her too. That's why I chat with her all the time. Uh, Come on, ladies. You chose this. Yeah, that's a fair point. Philip, I shorten the names, guys, just so you know. Oh, Will I am. Then roll them towels. Yeah, I've tried that. Um, Philip, I know the problem, so I do the housework when she's at work. It's done then. That's what I used to do, and then it was done right because my way was the right way. Cue the haters. Um, there is no right or wrong, by the way. There's just different ways of
No,
doing
there's
things.
really not. If it's long, like if my husband's doing the dishes, does he load the dishwasher quite as well as I do? No, because I'm the Tetris champion. But any
Okay.
any dish, any dish that I do not have to wash, that's a win. Any load of laundry where I don't have to, the washing's easy because the machines do it all for you. But any load of laundry that gets put up and I'm not the one who had to match socks, fold towels, whatever, I don't care. It's done. I didn't have to do it. Thank you. Like a thank you goes a really long way, along with other forms of appreciation, which we can't name because I'll get kicked off and banned again. But
Don't get me bad, please. I'll do the wink for you. There, I just did it on the
did
camera.
the dishes get cut? Yes, the dishes get. come out clean because the dishwasher does all the work. The dishwasher, the machine dishwasher, not me dishwasher.
Well, one of the battles that I used to hear from my ex all the time. Now, mind you, I did 90 to 95% of the laundry. But there's no separation of colors. I'm going to get you going here, Lindsay. Um, they all went in together. I did it in cold water. Guess what? The clothes got cleaned. I never once turned anything pink. But she used to fume, and I would say, "Well, then you do it."
Well,
I'd
yeah,
play that game. It's,
if yeah,
we again, my way may not be the right way, but it's not the wrong way. The clothes were still clean.
well, there's that old phrase of, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and
Hmm.
all roads lead to Rome. And if you're really that particular about the way things are done, like the journey, favorite band by the way, but journey, if you're more concerned about like the journey than getting it done, then you do it. If you're that concerned about the manner in which it is getting done, the process, the procedure, then you do it. If it's
And
that important to you.
that was always my viewpoint because there were certain things, because I have OCD, there are certain things I wanted done certain way. And I just simply said to her, I'll take care of those. Right. And it kind of worked out because the things that I don't know if enjoyed's the right word, but let's use it, enjoyed doing, she hated and vice versa. I had no problem washing and, putting the clothes in the washer and in the dryer and taking them out. I hate folding clothes. So that was the deal we had. So when I was working, that's how we did it. I washed and dried and then brought them up and she would fold them while we were watching TV or whatever. When I was home watching the kids by myself, then I did all the thing, but I couldn't. A fitted sheet is beyond me to fold. I think it's beyond anybody, but,
I
you know,
actually know how to fold a fitted sheet because
of
I worked
course,
in
I knew
bedding.
you were going to say.
Oh no, I had a cheat for this. I worked in the bedding department in
uh,
Dillard's for for a year, and people would bring us sheets back in that were nothing. They wanted to return them, and we had to get it back in the package. It's some origami, like it's witchery. Okay, it is origami witchery getting those things back in. And I was good, and unfortunately, I was good at it. So whenever I would come to work, and there would be piles of returns going, "Hey, Lindsay, can you do these?" And I'm like, "How long have these been here?" "Oh, since last week."
so you're one of the few that can do it.
Fine.
Oh, I like this one. So, Pure Phoenix says I'm a bit like that. Can't stand taking out a plate and seeing stuff on it. Still, I'll hand wash it. Back in the day, I used to drive my ex would go to her father's every weekend. Well, not every weekend, but every other weekend. He was elderly. She'd go up check on him and that kind of stuff. And he lived 2.5 hours away. So every other weekend, pretty much I was home alone. I would live with one fork, one spoon, one knife, one dish, and one cup. That was it. I never used a dishwasher. And it used to drive her nuts that I would do that. But it's efficient, right? Can't do that with a family, right? The kids at that time were with their mother, so it was just me. But that was one of the things I will always hand wash if I can, if it's just me. Richard, I can't fold fitted sheets either. Thank you, brother. I'm glad somebody else is with me on that. Um, but it's funny because to really kind of talk about the topic a little bit is that I've always found online more so than anywhere else is that they'll say men do nothing, and it's one of the beefs that I have because men are doing stuff. It's just not acknowledged or appreciated, and that I think is a large reason why relationships fail because
Um,
guys want that. Hey, all they need is, hey, I saw you did whatever. You did the dishes. Thanks. That's it. We don't need anything more. Um, but
so so there's a lot of, if we could fix like 96% of all domestic problems with, if just going back to the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated.
there you go.
And even though the house is my job and I don't expect like accolades for it because it's my job, my husband still thanks me. "Hey, you worked really hard today. The house looks really nice." or he'll randomly bring me flowers out of nowhere, or occasionally he'll even make me flowers out of duct tape, which I actually like those better than the real flowers
I
because
love it. Good for him.
um but so like when I notice he's working hard, like he'll come home from a mission because my husband's in the military, and this man will be gone for like a week, and he'll cross the international date line like 3 times, going back and forth between Hawaii and Japan. Comes home, has no idea what day it is other than the sun is up, but couldn't tell you anything beyond it's daytime technically. And he's flight crew, so that's they have 24-hour duty days. So he'll be on the clock for 24 hours, 36 by the time the duty day is 24 hours, and then of course you have the gear up and then the takedown. So this man will be tired, and he'll come home. And I was like, "Hey, thank you, welcome home. Go take a nap." Duty, Maddie, DUTY.
I saw that just come up.
And he comes home, and my way of showing my appreciation for his, how much he works for our family is to install him upstairs with his video games, and I will bring him food in bed, and I won't let him touch anything for like 24 hours home. I won't. He'll be like, well, he'll come downstairs and be like, what needs to get done? I'm like, no, you just got home yesterday. Sit down. He's like, and then he feels bad because he's sitting there doing nothing while I clean in the background. I was like, you did your part. And I get hell for it when I tell other people about it.
And the reality is you're just being nice when it comes down to it, right? You're showing respect for what he does. He respects you. He thanks you from time to time with duct tape flowers. Love that. It's just interesting that they don't see it for what it is, which is a positive, affirming relationship between the two of you. And they see that as a negative, which, if you think about that, if you have that kind of mindset where everything, you not only have to divide it, but you have to keep track of who did what, have an accountability score, so to speak, that's not a relationship that I would
No,
want. Who would?
if you're constantly keeping score, then yeah, you're in a competition, not a relationship. And
Exactly.
it, can I teach a course for women? I try, but whenever I tell women, whenever I start a video off with, hey ladies, I immediately get called the worst names.
Pick Me is one of the nicer ones, right? Um, I'm just looking through some of the comments like you. Maddie, you're cracking me up with the duty. I was going to make a crack about you being English, but you already beat me to it, so I'm no good there. And for all you guys looking, she's already taken. You can't ask her to marry you. But it's, again, it speaks to something that I like to talk about a lot, which is how relationships have become now. It is a score. Who did what, how much, who's better, whereas it should be a partnership. Hey, this needs
Yeah,
to be done. The list is on the fridge, like you mentioned. Go pick something on the list, get it done. Hey, can you help me? Just kindly say, hey, I'm a little behind on whatever. Can you help me pick up the clothes or whatever, the toys from the kids or whatever?
oh, sorry, Maddie.
um, Gee, Maddie, I might take your ring. No, I'm not kidding. But it's as we see that becoming more and more prevalent with relationships, again, there's no winning there because all it's going to
Well,
do is create resentment.
I see a lot of and this is so sad, but people nowadays, my age and younger, are caught up so much on
Maddie.
relationships have to be like 50-50. And I'm like, it's okay. So it has to be overall 50-50. But in each moment, sometimes it's 40-60. Sometimes it's 80-20. Like you have to be able to change with the circumstance, because if you're on that, you're like a hard line, like line in the sand. No, it's 50-50 all the time. What if it doesn't need to be 50-50? You have to be able to shift with changing times. And so many women are, and I see it mostly from women. I don't see it from guys, because guys, y'all are adaptable. Circumstances change. It's like, okay, well, you roll with it. Women, we have a tendency to get lost in our own heads. We're like,
Hmm.
we get an idea and we're stuck on it. So all of the relationship advice and all of the women's magazines and the other women are giving other women advice. And this is terrible, by the way. I always keep telling women, stop taking marriage advice from your single friends.
I saw a
Stop it.
bunch of them the other day doing exactly that.
And
These
it's like,
dating coaches, and they're all single.
they're all single. And it's like, why are you taking marriage advice from someone who has never been married and whose longest relationship is 8 months?
And they're like 20 years old. They have no
They don't
idea
have
what
enough
it's like.
experience points. And I'm like, your level of experience is nil. And then I always get and then when I give this advice online, of course, I'm always told that, well, you'll understand when you've been married for more than 10 years because you're only like 34. And I'm like, I was married at 19. I've been married for
For
15 years and we're pretty happy. So I must be doing something right. You want to try that again? Well, you'll know better when you have kids. I have 2 kids. Thank you. And it's like, and then they keep moving the goalposts. It's like, well, you've just internal,
yeah.
and then it's always rolls back to you're a lost cause. And I'm like, I'm happy and you're miserable. Of the two of us, who's
And
winning?
that's why you're a lost cause, because you can't be miserable because you're happy, and they want you to join them in that. I'm just looking through some of these comments. Maddie's on a roll. I'm sure you're seeing them too.
Yes.
When men want something, they say what they want. When women want something, telepathy is needed. Maddie, you're so spot on, and half the time they don't even know what they want. So how the hell come we supposed to figure it out?
But my husband jokes. I'll say, I was like, I'm not psychic. He goes, it's pronounced psycho.
He's not wrong. I like your husband too. Oh my God, Johnny Reb, you're 40 and never been married. Dude, my son is 35 this year, never been married, never been on a date. He's got more money he knows what to do with. So you are the smart man. Go ahead, Lindsay. You can jump on that. Debt free too, yeah. It's when you start using comparisons like that, inevitably one party's going to fall short no matter what. In everything, though, in my case, back in the day, I used to work 70, 80-hour weeks. I was pretty high up in IT. And I would come home, and there were days, much like your husband, there were times I'd be 24, 48 hours at work. When 9/11 happened, for example, I worked 91 straight hours after that. Trying to at the time I worked for a company called PSI Net. We ran the internet trunks. What most people don't know is the entire New York City internet ran through Tower 2. So when that tower came down, the internet went bye-bye, and we had to route around it. So I ended up working for basically 5 straight days. And so, I
That's
see
true,
that.
Maddie. That's
What
true.
is, I'm reading some of the notes while I'm chatting, but, you know, so when you work that many hours, if my wife at the time had expected me to come home and do the dishes, I would have looked at her like she was crazy. Hello, and she never did, to her credit, by the way. I don't want to imply that she did, but when you start having those divisions of labor and start comparing them, I did a video, God, probably about 2 months ago now, where I purposely said, guys are doing the mowing and the stuff outside, and I purposely didn't say the stuff inside because I was poking the bear because I knew what they were going to come back with. Um, and they just assume that's all the men do. And it's black and white. That's the other thing I always
Well,
find hilarious. There's
even
no
if
gray.
even if that is all the man does, if he's working 60 hours a week, that's his contribution to the household.
Exactly.
And depending on where you live, like if you live in Florida where it's summer 12 months out of the year, you have to mow the grass religiously every week. And that's like couple hours, if depending on how big your yard is.
Right.
So, I mean, even if it's like the maintenance and the upkeep and the outside, all that, I got caught heat on a video because I mentioned that um, I was going to go mow the yard before my husband gets home so he doesn't have to do it because he was coming back from a mission. And they're like, my husband would, oh my God, I would never, he would never let me. I'm like, let, let my
Oh,
husband
that
doesn't
was
let
them
me do
fighting words.
anything. Um, but I didn't want him to have to come home from being on the plane for 12 hours to come home and then have to mow the yard. And our yard's not small. And they're like, well, I don't even know how to use the lawnmower. I'm like, how the fuck do you own a house and not know how to use the lawnmower?
They don't even know how to cook anymore. Come on.
And I have a really funny story about that. So we had a spouse meeting when my husband was active duty, and you had to go to this meeting, like you had to have your spouse go. And the key spouse is up on the thing. Regular old standard dependopotamus is up there with her microphone telling you what you need to know how to do before your husband goes off to war. And one of them was, what happens if you have a plumbing leak in your house? And I'm thinking to myself, you go outside, you turn off the main water, either in the side, front, or backyard, and you call a plumber. No, no. No, no, you call them and they do it all for you because women nowadays don't know where the main water shutoff is. It's like, if you don't know where the main water shutoff is or how your breakers work, you shouldn't own a freaking house.
Well, I mean, it also speaks to we need to teach people how to do things. One of the things I'm very proud of is I taught all my daughters how to change their own tires. You get a flat tire, you got to know how to change it. But I see countless, and to be fair, I see it with the younger guys too. They don't know how to change a tire. It's like, well, I'll call so and so. Well, where if you're out in the middle of nowhere with no cell service, right? You still got to be able to change that tire. Um,
Well, yeah, the owner's manual in the 70s taught you how to change out the spark plugs. Now the owner's
oh yeah.
manual tells you don't drink the antifreeze. It's like, we
But
can solve the world's problems just by taking the warning labels off of everything, let
oh
nature
yeah,
sort itself out.
let Darwin's theories come to play, right? But even basics like changing a tire may not be the best example, but hello, something's going on and you need to cut the power. You got a breaker or let's say something's electrical's happening in your house. If you don't know how to go flip the breaker and turn it off, that's not good. That's how you burn houses down. Um, that kind of stuff. Now, back in my day, because I'm a little older than you, everybody knew how to do most of that stuff. They may not be able to do great at it, and they didn't even have breakers in my day. We had fuses, and then you used to put the little pennies behind the fuses. Lindsay's going, "What the hell's a fuse?" No.
No, no, it's my favorite line from A Christmas Story. Nobody move!
There it
The
is.
fuse is
Exactly.
out.
Pennies were a wonderful thing back in the day, because but if brother love, all we got to do make changing a tire a video game, and they would get it ASAP. That's a great one. Um, I don't know. I never played. What's that game? Not Call of Duty. What's the one where
Grand Theft Auto, where they
Grand
steal
Theft
the
Auto?
cars.
That one. My kids used to play that one. It's probably in there, isn't it? I don't know. I never played it. Um, but it's if we don't teach, one of the things I think about being a stay-at-home is you have the ability to teach your kids these things, right? Hey, here's where a breaker is. If something pops, here's how you get the power back on. You got to flip the little breaker. If the water's leaking, here's where the turn off is for the whole house. Or here's, if it's the toilet's running, here's where you can turn off the toilet. Little things like that. Yes, pre 82 pennies is right, Brad. Little things like that. Then when they grow up, because you were speaking earlier about the benefits and how you can raise the little ones, they're much better off. They're able to take care of themselves. They're self-sustainable. I see these kids now where they're helpless. I mean,
Oh yeah, if they didn't have connection to the internet, they wouldn't know how to
they
do anything. And we call it I call it like pioneer, old fashioned skills, whatnot. And we're starting, like, our power went off a couple days ago. A transformer blew, and the kids are like, the TV won't turn on. Yeah, because the power's out. Well, what are we gonna do? Read a book. And I got my son a book called How to Hold a Crocodile and 102 other things. And it's how to do little things, like what they used to teach in Boy Scouts before the girls invaded. That's another topic. So, like, these girls are all, I got into a comment the other day. Someone was saying, "Oh, well, the Girl Scouts had to go invade the Boy Scouts because the Girl Scouts sucked and they didn't teach us how to do anything." Well, then change the freaking Girl Scouts. Don't infiltrate the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, it's I mean, if they had, to your point, if they had said to the girls, "Hey, let's go learn how to, I don't know, gap spark plugs." I mean, nobody does that anymore, but I'm sure most of the girls would have been really into it. My girls were in, brownies and then Girl Scouts, and they, it was kind of like home ec 101, right? The leader was down the street, she was a stay at home, and she would teach them all that stuff, which was, I thought, was cool, right?
So I got to inherit all of my grandmother's home ec books. So she was a home ec major, and she taught it in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s as she retired in the 80s. And I got all her textbooks, which
Oh, really?
amazing knowledge, by the way. Not
Oh, I'm
only just
sure.
basic home stuff, but when she taught it in the starting in the 50s and 60s, it was a required class no matter if you were male or female. You had to take it to
I did.
graduate.
I did. Yep.
And um that's something I wish they'd bring back, because they teach all these kids all these useless facts that we don't need to know, but nobody knows how to balance a checkbook or how credit works. And these are things that I get to teach my kids because I was taught it by my dad.
Right.
Um, my dad, who worked, by the way, I did not learn how to keep house from my mother. I learned how to keep house from my grandmother and my dad. Um, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. She just couldn't be bothered to teach us. She just expected us to learn by osmosis. She didn't teach my brother anything, and now as a result, I've inherited the world's oldest toddler, and I'm teaching him how property taxes work and why he can't stay in a house when the mortgage is paid off. Because the mortgage is paid off, yeah, but there's still insurance and taxes. I don't want to pay those. Nobody does. Welcome to being an adult.
You don't have much choice because they'll take your house. Um,
And but yeah, I mean, these are all things you get to teach your kids, and your parents are the best teachers. Like, I got a questionnaire once, said, "Who's your favorite teacher growing up?" And I didn't even think of teachers at school. I said, "My dad."
mhm.
And, stay-at-home parents have a very, very important job, the most important job,
I
so that
feel
we don't
yes.
raise another generation of idiots like mine, or freaking millennials who are plugged in, can't do. If
You're
you
gonna
will,
get me going. You got it. You
there's
know
the
how I am
older,
with
okay,
millennials.
so there's the elder millennials that were born in the 80s, when we still didn't have internet, when we were like in diapers. And then there's everyone who was born like after 92. And there's a split down like there should be a micro generation. And all the
Hmm.
older, like elder millennials, are shaking our heads at the rest of y'all, going, "Y'all are why we can't have nice things.
You
Y'all
sound
ruined it for the rest of us."
you sound like my oldest daughter, who's the same age as you, and she hates her generation, and she
Oh,
talks about that split. Her sisters are the young. Her one sister. My oldest daughter was born in '88. Um, my next daughter was born in '92, and then the third one in '96. And she talks about the second two like they're aliens from another planet. And I'm like, you're all millennials, you know. But she just gets infuriated with the difference between them, and it cracks me up when I hear people like you say that.
so I mean, like, there's little skills we teach our boys. We have, once upon a time I wanted a degree in alternative medicine, but I have a old book. It's falling apart. About medicinal plants that we live nearby, that grow nearby in our area.
Mm.
I know how to gut and skin. I know how to field dress a deer. We're going to teach the boys how to do that. I got my hunting license before my driver's license, and I know how to kill things with crossbows. We're not allowed to shoot the pigs behind our house, but we are allowed to shoot arrows at them.
Yeah, you
And
can't. Yeah, that's actually not that rare because they don't
and
want
we have
firearms fired in the city. So,
we're outside city limits, and there's an actual gun range nearby, so we probably get away with it, but better safe than sorry. But they're feral hogs, and they're dangerous. So I mean, we'll shoot arrows at them over
it's
our fence. I'll go upstairs, and my husband's taken the screen out of the upstairs window in our bedroom, and he's leaning out the window with a crossbow. And I'm like,
nice.
"What are you doing?" He goes, "Shh, I'm hunting bacon."
I used to love shooting with arrows. I was actually back in the day pretty good. I would suck now because I can't see anything. But you're talking about like basic survival skills, but you take it to that level, like, you know, let's say we lost power, something happened. There's terrorists out there trying to take the power stations out. God forbid that ever happens. Or, for example, where I live, I'm in a hurricane area, as I'm sure you are. A hurricane rolls through, you might be without power for a week or two or three.
Well,
Um, I,
when we had I think they missed the opportunity. They called it the snowpocalypse when Texas, the whole grid went down.
oh, the grid. Yeah, that was a couple years ago. Yeah.
I think they missed an opportunity that they should have called it Snowvid instead of COVID, Snowvid, because it was around the same time. But people were without power and um freaking freaking the fuck out. They just like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? How do I heat my house? You don't open up don't open the doors. And if you have really like real big windows, go get some blankets or whatever, put them over the windows to trap the heat in, pitch a tent in your living room. All these, and I'm thinking this is common sense. No, because common sense is not so common anymore. It's now uncommon sense.
Mhm.
And I'm like, we're doomed. This is why the aliens won't visit us.
They're looking at us going, oh my
Well,
God.
these people are
Now,
crazy.
I remember, God, this is easily 10, 15 years ago. My ex-father-in-law lived in the Adirondacks in New York, and they had a big ice storm. He was without power for almost 2 months where he was, because I mean, it took the lines out for miles and miles. And he was just fine, right? At the time, he was probably 74, 75 years old, maybe a tad younger. But he managed for basically 2 months, and we couldn't get to him either. I mean, the roads were blocked. It was horrible. Um, and he did just fine. And I remember even at that time saying, I could manage that because if I didn't have enough food, I could go out and hunt. Um, but the generations now, if that happened, and it will happen at some point, somebody's going to get hit with a hurricane and lose power for weeks or whatever, or an ice storm or whatever. Um, how are they going to survive? They're not going to be able to get Uber Eats, right? It'll be real interesting when that happens.
I think that a lot of these skills are traditionally skills that dads teach their children.
Very good point. I
And
agree.
so many households, even if the dad does know these things, because I think it's the secret life of men, y'all just magically know how to do all this stuff. I'm kidding, of course. But so many guys just we take for granted that y'all know how to do these things, and y'all do. And then these are traditionally skills that dad teaches kids, boys and girls. But with so many dads being forced out of their kids' lives, the skills aren't being taught. And then you have a generation of idiots who, if they can't Google it, they're going to die.
Yeah, it was funny. I'm just reading through some of the notes while you're chatting. Just a couple of the comments that were, but Brad still has his own showing machine. I was never any
I,
good at them, but I can hand sew. Uh,
I have three sewing machines.
yeah, I remember you've told me that before. User was long, if staying home was hard, they wouldn't want to do it. There's a good point.
That is
Uh,
very true.
I mean, I loved being home. Brother love show. Some women won't like her because she loves her dad. Hate to say it. You're right. Phoenix. Oh, this one's great. Me sustains lethal injury. Z, Gen Z, Google's how to bandage it. Me bleeds out waiting. Yep.
I can't get it the internet. The signal doesn't work.
How do you escape a bus sinking in the lake, Phoenix? That I'll have to Google it, right? Yeah, just I'm just kind of skimming through some of these because these are hilarious. Hogs are smart enough to realize the long pointy thing is causing. Yep, they do know that.
They also eat anything, including human teeth.
Including human being. I was just about to say, best way to get rid of a body, throw it in a pig pen. Um, it's your point about dads teaching things, and it would be the other way, by the way. If it was all, the kids were always with the father, I think the kids would miss out on what mothers teach. That's the
Yeah.
beauty of us as a species when we are together, right? Is men's weaknesses are women's strengths and women's weaknesses are men's strengths. And yes, I know there's exceptions. Let's forget that, all right? In general, we're talking about it. That there are things you know how to do better than I do, Lindsay. There's things I know better than you. That doesn't make either one of us better or worse than the other. But when we come together, we benefit, society benefits, and most importantly, the children benefit. And I think
I,
we've lost that.
I think that
Oh, Phoenix, come on, you're gonna get me killed. I don't know if you saw that one.
I saw.
That was great. Come on, you gotta give props to that one.
Yeah, that's good. That reminds me of, okay, so actually on that topic, to kind of
Go, go
jump
ahead.
off that, so a lot of women are angry that the men in their lives don't know how to treat them or know anything about the menstrual cycle. And they get mad at the guys for that. I'm like, get mad at their mothers, get mad at their girlfriends, get mad at their sisters, get mad at the women in their lives who didn't feel the need to tell them, because are they supposed to know about something that they can't experience unless the person who does experience it tells them? So
Well, as a father of three boys and three girls, and four women who would sync up at the same time, and on the boys and
it's
I
just a
would.
bloody waste of fucking time, in my
Oh
opinion.
man, the boys, it was called DEFCON 5. All right, we're at DEFCON 4, I mean, because there was four of them. We're at DEFCON 4. Let's go do something. And I would disappear with the boys for the rest of the day.
My husband has my boys trained. I'll be hiding in the bedroom because I know that I'm prickly and I don't want to jump down your throat for something innocuous. So I remove myself from the situation. And I'll see little bitty fingers pushing
Aw.
the little snack size almond joys and chocolate bars and anything with caramel and chocolate under the door. And then I'll be like, and they're like, here you go, mama. And then I get a text message from my husband saying, has the demon been appeased?
Yeah, but he's teaching them what to do in a way, right? Throw chocolate at the problem. That usually always works. Phoenix is like, yeah, have pads and all that. Yeah, I
Well,
bet.
yeah. Or there's women also talk about how, like, I sent my boyfriend to the store. I asked for tampons, and he came back with the wrong thing. And it's like, you're showing the tampon aisle. I was like, okay, what if your husband sent you to the store to get oil on the oil aisle?
Oh, you gotta get the right oil. That's right.
It's the same thing. Like, and women are really bad about this. They think that because, or we think that because we know something, the men are just going to know the magical, that we assume that they know the exact same things we do. And it never works in reverse because they get mad when the guys assume that the girl knows
Oh, they get
something.
infuriated
They
when you.
infuriate, like, why would I
Oh.
know that? But we think, and I say they because I'm on the spectrum, so I'm a more of a thing oriented. My brain,
Hmm.
we did a brain scan of in high school. We scanned my brain, and I was closer to the guys in my class than I was the girls, because I'm autistic. So, like, women think that if I know it, my husband has to know it. Well, where did you learn it? Well, my mom taught me. Did you, maybe his mother didn't teach him, or when back to the chores thing, I've had so many people get mad or seen people get mad because the guy's doing it wrong, not her way. But then you go to his mother's house and she does it the exact same way. So what you're really mad is you're mad that his mother taught him how to do it a different way than your mother taught you.
Right. And who's to say
And
your way is the right way? Maybe his mother's way is the quotes right way.
and yeah, they're like, and well, I got into an argument with someone the other day. I know, me and arguments. Why?
I'm shocked, stunned.
But she was like, well, we've been together for 2 years and he should learn my way by now. And I'm like, yes, but his mother probably had him do that her way from the time he was a little boy all the way up into adulthood. Do you know how hard it is to relearn a skill that you've been doing it one way your entire life? That would be like you saying, it's been 2 years. Why haven't you learned how to write with your left hand if you're right-handed? And she was like, I've never thought of it that way. I was like, maybe you should start.
That's a good point there. Yeah. Well, I mean, again, sometimes guys will look at it and go, well, my way's fine. What's wrong with it? Right. You always hear I used the towel one earlier. That's a classic one you'll hear thrown at us. Or you don't load the dishwasher right. You mentioned that one. Who's to say that your way's the right way? Right. Now, if the dishes are coming out of the dishwasher clean, that's fine. If the towel's in the closet put away, who cares whether, it's tucked a certain way or whatever?
Well, yeah,
House bunny, what is in the
you
house? Get it? Hey,
you
love her,
can't
by the
use
way.
the towel folded. You have to unshape it
It's
to
the
use it.
unfold, yeah.
Who cares?
Or I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that are, the classics that are out there. But I always laugh about that because you see it, and actually more and more I'm starting to see it where they're just tearing the guys apart because he didn't do it a certain way. Well, it doesn't mean your way is the right way. Well, we all have different ways of doing things. It's the same thing like you talked about jobs earlier. When I was in IT and I was pretty high up, I gave people the latitude to go do the job. My thing to people was if you have an issue, you can come to me. The first thing I'm going to say to you is, what's your solution? Because my solution might be right, but you may have a better one. I don't know everything. And if your solution is going to work better, go for it. You don't even have, I'm a big believer in it's better to ask forgiveness than permission. Just go do it. Handle it is my phrase. And it helped people because it took the pressure off them. At first, they felt the pressure, but if the job got done, I didn't care how it was done, as long as the job got done. Same thing with housework. If it's
Well,
getting done, who cares how it gets done?
one of the things that I see a lot that bugs me is that I see it as I used to work. I worked retail for a very long time, and I was microman. I had one female boss, and I honestly prefer working under a male than a
I
female.
hear so many women say that. So many.
Um, and she would micromanage me. I had to do it her way. And it was actually slower for me because I had to stop and think and do it her way
Hmm.
versus the way I naturally learned how to do it, which was faster. And I see that a lot with the way that women micromanage their households. Like, and it comes down to control. You're not, and I made a video about this recently,
It
and
is about control.
I caught some trolls in my net. Um, and I said it's about control. It's borderline abusive behavior because you refuse to cede control over the little things like loading the damn dishwasher, doing the laundry or something like that. And then when your partner doesn't do it, and it's usually always the men, when your male partner doesn't do it the way you wanted him to, not only do you say you did it wrong, but you berate, belittle the amount of vitriol I've seen come out of these women's mouths towards their male partner. And these are people they claim to love. And I'm like, that's abuse. That's verbal abuse.
It
Because
actually is. It's domestic violence, is what
it's
it is. It
domestic
falls under
violence.
that.
You make him
Yep.
feel about 2 inches tall. You call him an idiot, and not in the way I call my husband an idiot. When I say
There's
when
no
I call
fun
my,
way of saying it. Yeah, there's
yeah, it's my version of "As You Wish, Princess Bride." It's how I say "I love you." But they literally they make their husbands feel, and their spouse male partners, they make them feel so small, so insignificant, so that they're scared to do it wrong, which then they come and ask, "Am I doing it right? Am I doing it right?" And then she's mad at him
for
for
asking.
constantly asking, "Am I doing
Right.
it right?" I was like, you have this man so scared that if he screws up, you're going to berate, belittle, deride, and make him feel like he's a stupid child, a grown man. And he's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. I'm like, you're the problem. Yes, inconceivable. You're the problem. And then they're like, well, and then they use weaponized incompetence, and to borrow for this guy's, I can't say his name, to borrow the thing, they use the weaponized incompetence. Like, no, you keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
No, yeah, I hate that. I hate that phrase because
Like there is weaponized incompetence. It is a real phenomenon, but the way that the 99% of the people who say it are you saying it wrong.
well, that's my point behind it. You're right. It's a real thing. It's kind of like narcissistic now. It's become a catch-all for everything. The actual true number of people that are narcissistic is very low, but now it's
Yeah.
being applied to everyone. It's the same scenario with that, right? It's they get these buzzwords, these catchphrases, and weaponized incompetence is now basically applied to everything. And now,
You
as a
didn't
guy, I will tell you, there are times, you tell me enough times that I'm not doing X right, my answer is going to be do it yourself then. You know, that's not weaponized incompetence. That's me saying, here's my way of doing it. Here's your way. I'm going to do it my way. And there's nothing wrong with my way. Job got done. As opposed to, I know there are guys who do deliberately screw up. There's women who deliberately screw up, but
well,
it's become so prevalent now. It's muting the actual conversation is the way I look at it.
yeah, because you deflect from the actual conversation. And weaponized incompetence to me is like something my children do when they know how to do a task. They don't want to do the task and they just want to get it done and over with
Yeah,
quickly because they want to go watch TV. But I would never accuse my child of using weaponized incompetence because intent, it has that you there's an element of intent in that informs weaponized incompetence that most people don't have. And they're like, well, he half-assed it. So have you never half-assed something in your life?
we all have, right?
We all have. And yes, everyone has the ability to have narcissistic traits or to act
At times, yes,
at
I agree with
times
that.
self-serving, but true narcissists are rare. They're like sociopaths or psychopaths. They're rare,
Very rare.
very rare. But some people can be more narcissistic than others, but they're still they're not narcissists. But yeah, it's become, well, he's a narcissist. He's a narcissist. I was like, I'm starting to believe, much like Taylor Swift and all her breakup songs, that the problem might be you.
Just once, I want her to write a song about herself because she goes through guys like I go through dish towels or whatever, paper towels. And
And that's another thing. Maybe someone in the comments can answer it for me, but probably not because they're all men. What is the point of a decorative towel that nobody can use? I have
oh,
never,
here we go.
never understood that. I've been to people's houses and they're like, these are the decorative towels. I'm like, the purpose of a towel is to be used as a towel.
Well,
Why would you
yep.
have a towel that you can't use?
I had a wife that was like that. And she had the decorative soaps too. God forbid you touched her soaps. And if someone used the decorative towel, she would just lose it. And I'm not going to say there weren't times I didn't just deliberately do it because why not? But the soap thing, right? She had these little seashell soaps in a little dish right next to the sink. Now, if you didn't live there, wouldn't you think, oh, that soap's there, I'll go ahead and use it? And oh my God, she's just go apoplectic. Oh my God, they use my soaps. I'm like, it's a soap. What do you expect them to use?
The purpose of soap is to be used as soap. And I say this as someone who actually knows how to make soap with lye. You can either buy plumber's lye, or if you really, really want, I can give you a how-to guide of how to turn ashes from your fireplace into lye, because I was obsessed with
That's
all that ancient knowledge. But like, that's the purpose, and you can't use the object as the intended purpose. Why do you have it? And
I,
this is why I don't have any. This is why I have like 2 female friends.
it's kind of like I forget who said it earlier. I'm gonna scroll up, but we were talking about the toilet paper. He was it was Phoenix. Which way the toilet paper goes. To me, I don't even look at it. I just put it on the roll. Who cares, But there are people that go apoplectic about it. There are marriages that break up over stuff like that, and to me, it's just pure insanity. If you're at that level, you should be broken up, right?
Well, yeah, you shouldn't
Uh,
be in a relationship with anyone else because you're too self-centered, self-important.
but yet, I see these videos out there. Can you believe that he put the toilet paper going? Pick your direction, because it's
And I'm like,
50-50.
yeah, and I'm like, ladies, pick your battles. This ain't it, hun. And if it is, then some people's birthstones crystal meth and it shows.
Yeah, I mean, it's just this this whole thing is getting blown up more and more, and it's just creating more division. And again, we've both talked about it. We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses. In any relationship, you're going to find that, and it's the best thing to do is to kind of figure it out. Sounds like you and your husband have, right? Um, there's no right or wrong to any of it. If in your case, your husband's in the military, he's got a hell of a job. He's got a pretty high priority job, I think it's safe to say, right? And it's
Yeah.
not like he can say to them, "Oh, sorry, I have to load the dishwasher. I'll get to the plane when I get to it." That ain't gonna fly, pun intended.
No, the,
um,
the plane can't take off without him.
yeah, I mean, it's like, but yet I'm sure there are people that would look at that situation and think you're crazy for that. It's
Oh yeah,
who
yeah, I
are
get.
others to judge us, right? I don't if a couple says to me, well, he's doing this and she's doing that and blah, and it's working for them, more power to them. God bless them. That's my
uh,
viewpoint.
There's an old military phrase, and this is a real one. It says, if it's stupid and works, it's not stupid.
There
So
you
even if
go.
someone else thinks that it's stupid, but it works for you, well, then it works for you. It's not stupid. And to the men and women have strength things, this is something that's always annoyed me about feminism, is that they want almost they want the women are only considered strong, independent women if they espouse masculine traits.
Yes, that's a very good
If
point.
they're traditionally feminine, we're shit on collectively. I am
And
traditionally
I will
feminine, and I am
never understand that, Lindsay.
I will never understand it. It's like, if you want to be a strong woman, then you should be a strong woman regardless. You don't have to, and it's one of the reasons I have problems with all these comic book characters, because it's the strong, independent woman like freaking Captain Marvel. I'm like, ugh, ugh, ugh. It has nothing to do with Brie Larson. It's just, ugh. Um, and it's like, look, women were not made to do everything a man can do. Women were made to do everything a man cannot do. And together we will rule the world. But
That's exactly right.
if we're fighting for dominance to be exactly the same, and it's almost like in a lot of marriages, I see the problem is that there can only be one head of the household, and whether that is the man or the woman, it doesn't matter. But both partners are vying to be head of the household, to lead, and then we get into the problem of, even though there's only 2 people, it's still similar to too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
Hmm.
If you're both trying to lead, then the support job is almost more important than the lead. And I use my husband's job as an example. He's a support for the Air Force. So
Hmm.
he's the flight engineer on the C-5, which is the biggest cargo plane in existence. And that thing is a beast. But the wars are won on logistics. You can have the best fighting force in the world, but if you don't have the logistics and supports behind it, the supply lines, the all of that, you're going to die no matter what. So the
Yep.
support, the foundation is almost more important than the rest of the house, because if the house is built on a shaky foundation, it's going to fall down. So when more traditional housewives or stay-at-home moms get shit on, it's like we're the literal foundation for the house.
You're the foundation for society. I would take it even further than the house.
This is very, very true. And you're looking down on us for doing this very important job, but without it, all of society would crumble. So I'm a weak woman because I'm a doormat and I submit to my husband and I serve my household, but my husband couldn't do his job well without me.
Mm-hmm.
Arguably, it's if you're going to play the more important game, arguably the support is more important, but I don't look at it that way. But I will pull that out sometimes to kind of wave in the naysayers' faces,
Right.
because to them it's all about a competition. And again, we've talked about this with you and I before. We're not going to change their mind,
Nope.
but we could change someone else's mind coming in behind and viewing the conversation. So we're basically using the people. When I pick fights with feminists, I'm using they're
It's an
useful idiots.
it's an educational tool, right?
It's an educational tool.
I had a battle the other day with one. It was Saturday, and I was laughing so hard because this guy thought he was getting me. He was a male feminist, and I was like laughing. And he got really mad at me when I finally said, "You have done everything possible to help me educate the guys on what not to be. Thank you for that." That was basically my closing statement. Because everything he was saying was so absurd. You know, you'd look at it and go, and I know because a couple people private messaged me behind it, like, "Who is this guy? Why don't you ban him?" You know, and I'm like, because he's too good to, you know, he's too useful to me to educate people because it is about
Yeah,
educating.
unless you're saying something inflammatory or
But yeah,
derogatory,
I mean, there are certain lines that
I
get
don't
crossed
like,
that I will
yeah.
ban. Yeah,
Well, I don't like to ban people because eventually give them enough string, and eventually they'll,
yeah,
themselves. I can't say it on live,
yeah. We got
but
to be careful what we say there. But
um, they out themselves. They tell on themselves.
hmm
Give any enough time, and they'll tell on themselves. And and this is the point. Or we fall. I love having people following people to their end, like the logical conclusion,
hmm
and they always get upset. And I love male feminists because I will always, then they'll argue with me over
oh,
stuff to do with women,
they'll
and
tell
I
you
will pull.
you're wrong and
I
they
was
know
like,
better.
and I'm like, how many children have you had? Well, none. Well, I've had two. So in the words of your lobbyists, your side, no uterus, no opinion. Shut up. I win. And then they're like, but I'm different. And I will only ever use that, like what they say, in an effort to prove my point.
Right. Well, it's kind of like me when I say it's all women. I don't actually believe that, but it's
Well,
to
yeah.
make fun of their it's all men, you know, and they get
Yeah, it's all men. It's
so
all
mad
men
at me
until
for it.
it's no men. And I was like, well, most children are like, off by their mothers. It's all mothers till it's no mothers, or it's
Yeah.
all women
Oh,
till it's no men. And they get so mad, like,
oh, they
that's
go
not the
furious.
same. It's not all of us. I'm like, if you don't like being grouped in with the crappy ones, how do you think the men feel?
Exactly right. Oh, I got a comment on this. So Phoenix put up a thing a couple minutes ago about unrealistic. We were talking about the difference between men and women. Record one-handed lift, man, 140 kilograms, women 86. I was at World's Strongest Men competition, which was in Myrtle Beach this past weekend. And I'm going to be doing a video on this to talk about it, but it was it was amazing to watch the contest. And these guys are mountains. I mean, I'm 6'1", 280. I'm strong as hell. I don't stand a chance with these guys, right? Brian Shaw is 6'8", 400 pounds of muscle. Tom Stoltzman, the guy's got to be 6'10", walking muscle, easily 450. But what the reason what kind of got me going with the dumbbells is there was that conversation happening about, well, why? Because it's all about, letting the trans people compete in women's sports is, well, why aren't there women allowed to be in this? And I'm like, because the starting dumbbell for the one lift was 250 pounds, give or take. I'm like, a woman couldn't lift that. And if she could, God bless her, I hope she could, she's not going to get to the next level, right? And they eventually worked it up. It's just the difference in how our bodies are made up. Men are always going to be stronger in general. Yes, there are exceptions, and that's okay because women are stronger in other things. But what kind of conclude that story where I was going with it is one of the things I noticed. You watch these guys compete, and remember, these are elite level lifters. All right. Brian Shaw's wife was just taking care of him. Like we watched her put his shoes on for him. Now, mind you, he had just towed a 51,000-pound bus for 25 meters. And I was sitting there and I watch, and they cross the line, they're gassed. I mean, picture pulling a bus, right?
Mhm.
And he gets over the chair, he sits down, and she starts doting on him and changing his shoes for him and tying them. And I'm like, all I could sit there and think of is one is how awesome is she for doing that? Because she cares enough for him that she's willing to do that for him. He's not making her do it. But two, I kept thinking if the feminists saw this, they would go absolutely apoplectic about it. Why can't he tie his own shoes? There's a couple that, they're taking care of each other and they're both stronger for it, literally and figuratively.
So what I always thought was absolutely ironic about that is that a man who bends over backwards to take care and serve his wife is, oh, he's so sweet. It's so awesome that you have a husband who'll do that. Like when I was pregnant and I felt fat like a beached whale and I wanted to paint my toenails, I couldn't reach my toes to paint them. So here's my 6'2" huge brick shithouse husband with the little nail brush painting my toes bright pink because I can't reach them.
There you go.
That was sweet. But reverse, if I were to take his shoes off after he's, come home, oh my God, that's terrible. I'm like, now wait a minute. If a guy does that for a woman, it's amazing and wonderful and sweet. But if a woman does that for a man, she's internalized her misogyny and he's
Exactly.
horrible.
Yeah, that's
He's
that's
making her do that.
that
And
was
I
what
got
I
to,
was thinking, watching her do that for him. And constitutional lawyer Carrie is a sweetheart. I actually talked with her briefly while we were there. She is a wonderful woman. And Brian Shaw is, 6'8", built, is the most humble, caring person you could ever meet. And the two of them together, it's why there are, he would not be as successful as he was without her. They have a business. Again, they complement each other. That's exactly what I'm talking about with all of that. And to your points is, you were pregnant, you couldn't do something, he did it for you. Awesome. That's the way it's supposed to be.
and it just, I don't like to see how it's horrible that a man gets credit or women only seem to be happy when men are serving women, but not in the good way, like to choose, like almost like we did a video on it a while ago. Uh, if he doesn't worship the ground she walks on, he's not the one. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, well, what about you? If you don't worship the ground he walks on, and not only that, but I wouldn't want my husband to worship the ground I
No.
walk on because I'm not a goddess. Like
Well,
you see all these things going like if he doesn't treat you like a goddess, being a goddess would be very, very difficult because you're up on a pedestal, and if you stray or deviate from that goddess persona, you lose everything. I don't want to be treated like this bigger, than life mythical creature. I want to be treated as a woman, and that's powerful, good enough on my own. But um like the over the top, he has to do this, he has to do that. But if I say I brought my husband breakfast in bed, it's terrible. And I'm like,
Right.
you realize, y'all, that without double standards, y'all wouldn't have any standards left.
And the thing they don't realize is guys are watching that video that they're making or the comments that they're making. And, I kind of poke the bear with it all the time saying, guys, go realize this is what's out there because that is what's out there in a lot of cases. There are some amazing women out there. My personal belief, and I think you and I have talked about it before, is these people that we're talking about is probably 10%. I'll go as high as 20% of the women out there. The rest of them are awesome. I truly
Yeah, but they're
believe that.
loud.
But yes, that's where I was going to go. That small minority is the vocal one. And the way to change it is more women like you speaking up, going, no, 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 no. That's not the way it is. Because
I
guys
was
can say it till they're blue in the face. It doesn't matter.
I was scrolling on Instagram the other day and I came across one of these ridiculous videos and I was like, oh, what the hell? So I go into the comment section. You always have to like, let me get my coffee or my shot of vodka, whatever. Um, you're diving into the like, going into war. All right, Sonny, we're going in. Wish me luck.
Buckle up. Here we
Um,
go.
buckle up. Here we go. But other women were calling her out. It was so refreshing to see going, no, this ain't it. Or they were coming to the men's defense. Not all of them, but enough of them that I knew that the tide is slowly beginning to turn.
And
Like
we
people
talked
are,
about that before when you were on the podcast. We are starting to see it turn a little
we're
bit.
starting to see more and more people go, now wait a minute, no, that's not right.
Phoenix,
And
I just want to give Lindsay a little credit there. I've seen two reasonable Western women third tonight. Lindsay is the bomb, Phoenix. I just want y'all to know that. I think the world of her. Um, I gotta watch my time. I got about a couple more minutes. Why don't you give a final thought, Lindsay, before we wrap things up?
final thought. Oh, you way to put pressure. Now everything just
I
leaves.
I just set your OCD up, right?
Yeah, my spirit animal is a squirrel in traffic.
Give me your best squirrelyism.
Compare my favorite saying for life is that comparison is the thief of joy.
Love it.
So women are especially bad at this, but we see other women on Instagram and social media and all social medias. And social media is supposed to be for you. Like, but so many other women are trying to convince other women that and it's we're trying to convince ourselves and we're not trying to convince guys. We're trying to convince other women that we're perfect. So other women are then comparing themselves to this perfect version of these other people that isn't even real. Like
Right.
it isn't. It's a performance-based show. And they compare themselves to and women compare themselves to other women. We do it constantly. We compare other women to other women. And if you're doing that, you're going to be miserable because you're
You
never
can.
going to be happy
I was going to say you
ever.
can never live up to that ideal standard. It's just like they do with guys, right? They expect Prince Charming. No guy is Prince Charming.
No, and he can be charming or he can be your Prince Charming. Like my husband's perfect for me. He's not everyone else's cup of tea. And I'll get
Right.
accused of like you're not everyone's cup of tea. I'm like, I prefer to think of myself as a shot of whiskey type of girl anyway. But if I'm not your cup of tea, feel free to keep scrolling, move on. There's this one guy who likes to police my tone of voice, going, you sound angry. I'm like, I'm talking about male unaliving rate. You're damn right I'm
We
angry.
should be angry on something like that.
He's like, well, you would catch more flies with honey. I'm like, honey, I'm from the South.
Yeah, it don't
No.
work that way. No, not these days anyway. All right. On that note, I'm going to have to wrap things up because I have an appointment to come. I truly appreciate you coming on with me, Lindsay. Hopefully, you'll get your video back soon because it would be a heck of a lot better for you, I'm sure.
Yes,
And to,
everyone's gonna laugh
yeah,
at my facial expressions.
to all of you that have commented, I tried to catch as few of them in there. Thank you for the comments. The couple of you that sent roses, thank you for that. I try and do lives every Monday at 4. Occasionally, I'll have guests on like Lindsay. Don't forget also, I do a podcast. Lindsay was the very first guest on the podcast. Go check that out. It's over on the tube. that was a fun one. And in fact, Lindsay, you'll be happy to know, as of now, it's still the number one show that I've done. Still got the most views. Um, but it's, things like this, the more we talk about them, the more we get the word out that, I kind of talk it as we're the majority. We're talking common sense type stuff, right? It's all it is. So thank you again for joining me, Lindsay. And I'm going to go ahead and shut things down because I do have to move on. And thank you, everyone, for being part of this. And let's do it again next week. See you later,
I got.
Lindsay.
Bye.
Bye.